Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Depressed Diora, and this is Middara, Unintentional Malum, Act 1. Alright, so we got their XP. I will worry about the restore later. We go to Getting Cocky, which is page 35, which is actually behind us. I told you guys we were ready for this. Nightingale pushed aside the last of the monstrous remains. The sound of strange footfalls moved away from them. We're like the best team ever. Pretty sure that deserves a round of high fives. Nobody mocked her enthusiasm this time. Expressions of satisfaction and pride were universal. Even Rook looked proud. I guess you're right, Nightingale. This wasn't such a bad idea after all. Remy returned Nightingale's grin. We're going to be heroes. Page 37, Strange Pedestal. Look at that wonderful nightmare. Okay, Nightingale picked her way through the hall, careful not to make a sound. A pair of massive double doors blocked the way, made of wood so old it was more like stone. She could hear screaming coming from inside. Good thing you're being loud. It might have been hard to find you otherwise. Nightingale was certain it was the thief. Who else would be down in the vaults? She peeked through the partly open doors, leaning around the edge, so she wouldn't alert the thief to her presence. She froze, staring through the doors in utter horror. She fought back the urge to scream, which turned halfway into a gag as she stared at the abomination that filled the center of the room. It looked like a head, 30 feet tall, with rotting, pale skin. Strands of matted, oily hair clung to its clammy flesh, and grasping limbs sprouted at random. The room was empty except for a pedestal which the monster seemed to be protecting. I have the right of salvage, a man stood with his back to her, separating her from the monster. He sounded far more confident than she would have been. You can't stop me. The creature laughed, throwing back a jaw that hinged open to reveal more appendages. Every pale digit had become a row of glittering teeth. It wasn't laughter that Nightingale had ever heard before. It was like the last breath of the dying shifted octaves lower and louder. I am Hografar, lord of the vaults. I have right to every treasure. Not this one, the thief said, stepping forward. It belongs to another. I will return it. Curiosity fought against her fear. Nightingale moved closer to get a better look at what the thief was trying to steal. The pedestal didn't contain priceless jewelry or some powerful enchantment, just a shard of broken rock, glowing faintly. You have no use for this artifact, the thief yelled. Let me pass, and my master will reward you. The creature Hografar furrowed its obscene brow as if contemplating the offer. Nightingale moved closer, crouching low in darkness so deep that she didn't see the stone until her shoe struck it, sending it tumbling across the room. Hografar turned slightly, its single gigantic eye fixing on her. Her heart seized as the monster's apparent amusement turned to anger. Coward! You couldn't face me alone. This thief is less than a worm. It raised one of its massive limbs, swinging toward the thief. Get back! Nightingale's shout came too late. Blood splayed through the air with an audible gurgle as Hografar tore across the man, gutting him in a fountain of gore. The man fell. No! Before she knew what was happening, she was sprinting toward the fallen thief. Get away from him! It wasn't just her. She heard Rook and Zeke charging down the hall, and Remy not far behind. They were helping too. The monster swept aside their blows with ease. Their attack slid from its hide like water without effect. Rook flew backward as a massive finger knocked the air from his lungs. Remy and Zeke weren't far behind, each sent flying with contempt. Nightingale charged, leaping with her weapon outstretched. Hografar caught her in mid-air with a swipe, easily tossing her back. She was only dimly aware of striking the ground. Her weapon was sent spinning out of her grip as she slid to a stop. Behind her, the sound of cruel laughter echoed through the chamber. Nightingale didn't lie still for very long. She felt her tail twitch and her limbs spasming one at a time as she regained control. Gurgling breaths came from somewhere so close she could almost feel the heat. Nightingale fought the pain and sat up. The world was still spinning, but it was clear enough to see what happened. The monstrous Hografar had knocked her toward the injured thief. There was more blood than Nightingale had ever seen. It pooled on the ground around the thief, along with stringy gray flesh she realized were his guts. For a moment, time stood still as she tried to process the image. She crawled weakly forward along the ground, reaching for the thief. I'm coming, she squeaked, her voice coming out in a slur. She clawed her way through the grime, fumbling through her gear with one shaking hand. Damn you, get away from me, he coughed, blood pouring from his lips as she shoved her. Nightingale ignored him. The man was obviously in shock. He didn't know what he was saying, and there was no chance she would listen. I'll stop the bleeding, or something. She searched desperately for the source of the blood pooling from the wound. She pushed, but she couldn't manage enough pressure to do anything but cover her hands in deep red blood. The man's skin was pale, his insides open and exposed. Every second brought another pulse of fluid, some spotting on her bare skin. Get away! The man's breathing was slowing to a dull rattle. He pushed on one of her legs, but the gesture was as futile as her attempt to stem the blood. I'll help you, she insisted again. Leaning closer, there was probably healing magic for a wound so terrible. Magic that someone who'd actually earned a spot in the demiurge would have known. Maluma. The word came out in a hoarse rattle, and bubbles formed at the thief's mouth as he gasped. He suddenly shook one last time, then finally fell still. Nightingale watched him die. She didn't notice that her friends were still stunned from their blows. She didn't think about the horrible monster behind her. Nothing made sense. Then something started to hiss and bubble. The corpse wasn't still. Something darker than blood was leaking from his face. Nightingale pushed away from him with blood coating her arms and soaking into her clothes. No, it wasn't leaking. It was clawing its way out. It surged from behind its eyes, out his ears, and through the gaping hole in his chest. The mass of black solidified in the air above the corpse. It had dozens of eyes, no two alike in size or shape. They seemed to move freely, pointing directly at objects instead of pivoting to face them. Soon, all of them were pointing at her. Nightingale screamed. She put her arms up, but it didn't hinder the ooze. It lashed onto her face like a malicious pseudopod. Fierce cold, so cold it burned, boiled at her skin where it touched. Her scream choked in her throat as the monster pried her jaws open wider and filled her mouth. And there's the picture of whatever it is that's about to jam into her. The seeping tar sucked into her eyes, and she could feel the pressure of it pushing into her skull. The pain was overwhelming, screaming throughout her body. The darkness consumed her vision and her mind until her consciousness faded. Rook moaned. Despite the pain making every movement stiff, he knew he had to act. Hogrifar was still there, and it could easily kill him. He had to get up. He had to help his friends. He rose, grunting. In the darkness, his surroundings seemed to blur, yet one shape formed before the others. It was Hogrifar, looming in the murky shadows. Far worse, it was holding Nightingale in the air by one of her horns. Rook couldn't speak, instead fumbling for his weapon. He didn't dare do anything sudden, lest he startle the monster into killing his friend. Hogrifar held Nightingale between two grotesque fingers, inspecting her closely. Where did you go? Acquired a new host, perhaps trying to hide inside of another body? It was searching Nightingale's face with a massive eye. Rook tensed, ready for a vain attempt at an attack. For a few seconds, the monster started laughing again, and Nightingale shook vigorously in its grasp. Damn fool, Hogrifar called. Its voice so loud that the ground seemed to shake. She just saved me from the parasite. It almost looked like the monster was smiling. Rook had no time for rational thought. He charged, lifting a massive weapon in both hands. Hogrifar didn't see him coming, nor did it turn toward the sound of Rook's pounding steps. Rook struck as hard as he could, aiming straight for the joint on one of the creature's fingers. The half-rotten flesh parted, spraying foul-smelling slime, and Hogrifar roared louder and louder. Nightingale landed with a sick-sounding thump at Rook's feet. He didn't slow as he scooped her into his arms, turning toward the smallest door in the room. Follow me, he bellowed, gesturing for Zeke and Remy. Despite their recent beating, the two were both on their feet and not far behind. They ran for their lives. Rook couldn't have said where he went. At each fork and junction, he picked a direction at random, so long as the way through looked clear. The ground shook behind them, and Hogrifar's terrible screeching still sounded in his ears. Rook ran until his guts started to ache, oblivious to anything but the placement of his feet and Nightingale in his arms. The sound of pursuit faded to a distant echo. Only then could they stop. Rook dropped to his knees, lowering Nightingale to the ground in front of him. Zeke was the first to speak, his voice so casual it sounded forced. Did either of you catch the way we came? No. Remy dropped to the ground beside Rook, nudging at Nightingale's cheek with one hand. She whimpered like an injured animal, her eyes opened. What happened? Are you all right? Rook asked. Are you kidding? Nightingale shook her head once. What the hell was on that pedestal? I think that thief might have had the plague or something. Did you guys see the thing? Rook frowned. I don't know what you're talking about, Nightingale. That was blood and maybe intestines. Hogrifar disemboweled him. Nightingale pulled herself into a sitting position. Oh God, I'm not sure. I thought I saw, but I couldn't have. I think I just hit my head. We have bigger problems right now, Zeke gestured around the little room. I don't have a goddamn clue where we are. The vaults. We get it, Remy said flatly. Thousands and thousands of rooms. At least one of them contains a gigantic monster that's probably looking for us. Zeke offered Nightingale his hand and helped her stand. She swayed a little on her feet. You got any smart ideas, Rook? Rook nodded. I've got one idea, but you guys have to be cool about it. Nobody freak out. Nobody freak out? Nightingale repeated, her voice strained and shaking. Are you serious, Rook? We just met some kind of god of the vault. I'm not sure you can scare us. Still, Rook reached up and removed the amulet hanging around his neck. Sorry? He didn't say it so much as he thought it, calling out through the strange amulet with focused will. Through the artifact was a forbidden place now within reach. Yes, Rook. The answering voice came almost instantly. You sound upset. I am, Rook said to the empty air all around them. Can you manifest here? The reply came with a little reproach. There are 3 others with you. I thought I told you my kind was forbidden in your world. Rook glanced at each of his friends in turn, each so badly beaten down that they were barely conscious. I trust him, Suri. We need your help. As you wish. Magenta light began to glow from the amulet, overwhelming the gloom. Rook was numb to the wonder, though he could at least feel a little satisfaction at the amazement on his friends' faces. That light solidified into a greenish humanoid with a body of radiant energy that blurred at the edges. Her hair was electric blue and waved in a wind he couldn't feel. Whoa! Zeke's lighter fell to the ground with a faint thump. Hi. Suri bounced on nothing, though she never moved more than a few feet from Rook. The amulet continued to glow in evidence of their connection. Everybody, this is Suri. It's very important you never mention her to anyone. The spirit, staring openly, darted a little nearer to each one as Rook introduced them. How did Zeke began? Rook cut off Zeke with a gesture. Later. He turned, fixing his eyes on the glowing spirit. Suri, we're lost down here. Can you help us find the way out? Suri vanished. Did she just leave? Remy asked nervously. That's a lot of build-up for someone who won't help. Before he could explain, Suri reappeared in a flash of light. I found the way. A glowing trail formed, leading out an open door. Best get moving. A way out, which is page 32. There we go. Your friends are good at this. Suri glided along in front of Rook as they made their way through the ruined halls. It seemed the closer they were to the surface, the more had crumbled away, eaten by time and air. Yeah, Rook still had a weapon within reach if he needed it. So far, they had managed to avoid anything that might have tried to stop them from leaving the vault. In fact, they saw nothing more dangerous than occasional vermin. It seemed the lesser creatures of the upper vault had learned to stay away, probably due to Hoggarfar's presence. Thanks for the directions. We'll have to bring a map next time, Remy said. Maybe we can pick somewhere safer. We could help innkeepers deal with the rats in their basements. Inquiry. Suri didn't meet Remy's eyes so much as she watched her wings. Do the mortals of the realm routinely invoke the help of skilled professionals to get them out of minor problems they could have solved on their own? Zeke grunted. No, on Earth they did. People on Middara usually have more sense. He left a trail of smoke behind him. Rook wondered where the new cigarette had come from, but took it as a good sign. They were recovering from their experience, except for Nightingale. Her skin was strangely pale, and she took every spare moment to rest that she could. Suri slowed a little as she considered Zeke's words, then shrugged. It was one of the first gestures she had learned to imitate, though Rook still wasn't sure if it meant the same thing to her. This is the way out. The security bar on the other side is unlocked, so you should be able to open it. She gestures at a strange section of wall where intricate metal clamps anchored to a round metal door. There had been words written there once, but Rook couldn't make them out. They pushed together, and the rusty door slowly squeaked open, letting them out into the ground surrounding the white spires. Zeke led the group toward his family's manor, and nearly 20 minutes later they arrived at the Zhang House, a large white building that Zeke called home. Page 40. Nightingale collapsed onto the ground, pressing her face against it for a few seconds. She was fairly certain she'd never been happier to be away from adventure. We made it, thank God, she let out an exhausted sigh. Behind her, Suri's voice was barely a whisper. What is this place? I sense active spells upon the stones. Zeke locked the door behind them with a resounding click. My family has us dorm here while we're attending the institute. I've been told it was already built into the foundation of the rock when this land was claimed. It's supposed to have enchantments to keep us safe. I believe it does. Suri floated gently past Nightingale, looking at each of Rook's friends in turn. It was very nice to meet you all. Please do not share anything about our experiences tonight, or we will likely all die violently. Goodbye. There was a faint pop and a flash of purple light. Rook's amulet stopped glowing. Sorry about that. Suri's a little oblivious to courtesy. Rook offered a hand to Nightingale. Are you all right? Yeah. Nightingale took the offered hand and stood. It was more than a little strain on her body, but she managed not to sway. I think I just need some rest. We should visit the castle first, Rook said, concerned. Your father has excellent doctors after what happened. Nothing happened, Nightingale yelled, her tail snapping behind her. Really? Didn't you say you saw something come out of the thief? Rook looked from Remy to Zeke. Did either of you see that? Nope. Zeke looked down, frowning. After that thing knocked me around, my memory gets fuzzy a bit. Remy nodded. My dumb wings were in the way. I didn't get up again until I heard her scream. Nightingale could remember the amorphous shape sprouting toward her after she tried to save the thief. She shivered, glancing down at the ruin of her dress. It was brown, encrusted with dirt and dried blood. She tried to push the image from her mind. That thing, it called itself Hografar, right? It must have hit me first, that's all. She shook her head. How about we don't go anywhere near my father tonight? He's the reason I went into the vault in the first place. Rook sighed. I'm not sure where else we could go. You could crash here, Zeke gestured at the living room with a cigarette. We've got this whole mansion and everything. Might as well use a few of the extra rooms. You too, Remy. It's too late to make the trip back to the Institute now. Perfect. Nightingale nodded, forcing more enthusiasm into the response than she felt. The next hour was a blur for Nightingale. She ducked away to wash all the blood and change into clean clothes. After that, she ate some leftover soup as Zeke prepared a few spare rooms for their use. She fell asleep and dreamed of the white vaults, where the floor stretched into endless darkness, and an alien monstrosity of writhing limbs guarded something she wanted. Hografar was there, its proportions even more hideous than she remembered. The shadows of its disparate parts writhed, all reaching for her. Nightingale watched herself try in vain to save the thief, watched him die before her eyes. Something even worse than the freakish Hografar poured from the corpse and lashed onto her face, its body a hideous mass of swirling eyes and mouths and teeth. Eventually she saw herself collapse, overwhelmed by agony. Her dream self's eyes opened, staring at her. There was something dark behind them. They were the eyes of a mind she could not comprehend. Nightingale awoke abruptly, shooting upright in the gigantic four-poster bed. The early light of dawn streamed in from one window, filling the room with its dull glow. Something reached for her shoulder, blocking out the light. Nightingale jerked violently away, twisting off the bed and landing with a pained thump on the floor. She came back up a second later, panting, her weapon in hand, but there was nothing there. Nightingale took a deep breath to calm herself. She set her weapon down, then made her way downstairs. The kitchen was busy, though not with servants or staff. Instead, she was more than a little surprised to see Remy, Rook, and Zeke already waiting. Hey, Knight. Zeke raised a spatula in mock salute. Feeling better? Yeah, she lied, looking around at the mess. Eggs and flour were everywhere, along with the other stains she couldn't easily identify. Did something blow up? Yes, Zeke said. No, Remy and Rook answered at exactly the same time, both looking abashed. Rook glared once at Remy before continuing. We had some disagreement about whether animism could be used to make an omelet. Remy wiped a sheen of slime away from her face with a cloth and tossed it into the counter beside her. Turns out it wasn't a good idea. Zeke scooped a fresh and completely inanimate omelet out of a pan and onto a waiting plate. After yesterday, we weren't going to get you until everything was ready. Did the explosion wake you? Nah. She helped straighten things out, then the four of them sat down to eat. It was only after she had eaten her portion and everyone else's scraps that Nightingale realized just how hungry she had been. As they were finishing, someone knocked at the door and Zeke left to deal with it. He returned a moment later with a familiar figure just behind him. Khufu! Nightingale was up in an instant, bouncing with energy, and she loped over for a friendly hug. What are you doing here? Khufu pried her off. Your father sent me. You're urgently needed at the castle. He looked between them. Zeke, you've been called as well. Zeke and Nightingale exchanged a worried look. Khufu ignored their exchange. You're the new knight, right? Khufu had to look up a little to meet Rook's eyes. You too. Oh, you guys are so screwed, Remy said. I bet they found out what happened last night. Khufu turned, facing Remy with obvious confusion. What do you mean, what happened? Remy looked away, one of her wings switching. Never mind. I'm not royalty, and I'm not Nightingale's knight. I'm sure your family won't want me there. Nightingale darted over to her. I don't care. You can come too. Screw that, what Balthazar wants. Okay. It was hard to tell if Remy looked nervous or relieved. It's not like I've got anywhere else to be. It's now that we've graduated and all. The sooner we leave, the better. Khufu glanced back at the hallway he'd come from. King Balthazar didn't say what this was about. He only said that I had to fly here as fast as I could. Nightingale groaned, running one hand through her unruly hair. I got a pretty good idea. So much for having enough time to get ready. Let's just go. Waiting for him to get angry isn't going to make it better. Arson Castle. Arson Castle was a lone monolith in the center of the city's mysterious lake. Reaching it required them to cross an imposing bridge with ugly stone gargoyles watching their every step. As they walked across, the usual flood of official business in both directions somehow changed to a faint trickle. Remy stared up at the castle as they neared it, awestruck by the alien construction in the full light of day. She looked over at Rook, who seemed just as amazed as she felt. I guess I'm going to have to get used to coming here, Rook muttered. Remy followed his eyes and found herself suddenly shivering. There was something off about the castle, something she hadn't noticed before. Maybe it was the proportions. Most of the windows looked too large. The front doors were massive and intimidating, but they were also directly in proportion with everything else. As they continued to cross the bridge, she refused to look over the side into the swirling water far below. Something was swimming around down there, circling always waiting. You and me both. Nightingale looked uncomfortable. You can tell it wasn't built by humans. Rook nodded. It was originally a fortress, not a castle. It was in the middle of a lake. I bet tearing it apart and rebuilding it was pretty expensive, Zeke said, flicking the charred butt of a cigarette over the edge of the bridge and down into the moat. Let me do the talking, Nightingale said, her voice flat. What we got into was my fault. You tried to stop me, Rook, and the rest of you were against it. As long as Balthazar knows I'm completely responsible, you guys shouldn't get into trouble. If you say so, Rook said non-committally. They moved quickly to the doors where a pair of armed soldiers waited. Servants ushered them into the throne room, not even complaining about their companions. The king and queen sat on their thrones, their backs straight and expressions mask-like. Nightingale's brother and sister were there, along with Zeke's uncle Yun and his mother Ida. Given the way he'd behaved the night before, Remy never would have thought Yun would be at a royal gathering. How considerate of my little sister to grace us with her presence, Yoel muttered, just loudly enough for them to hear as they approached the throne. We've only been waiting, what, an hour? Balthazar rose, clearing his throat. Welcome back, daughter. He nodded respectfully to Zeke. I'm relieved you made it also. This information concerns your family as well as ours. Remy could see Nightingale's body tense under her father's gaze. The king hardly seemed to see Rook standing there, though at least there was nothing judgmental in Balthazar's expression. When he glanced at Remy, there was only confusion and a little annoyance on his face. Nightingale seemed to have noticed, too, because she reached back and rested one arm on Remy's shoulder. Balthazar looked as though he was going to say something about Remy's presence, but then sighed and sat back down. There's little time, rulers and guardians of Alenia. Kezia and I should already be on the road. We cannot waste time with formalities, I would prefer. Your memorial hunt. I could never forget that day, Ida supplied in a strained voice. Balthazar bowed. I will bring the most glorious trophy yet in Lo's memory, Lady Ida. She sighed. I am sure he'd be flattered. Unfortunately, this year's hunt has come in an opportune time, Balthazar continued, gesturing slightly at his wife. The queen was every bit Balthazar's match for confidence, her voice clear and loud in the mostly empty throne room. You are all aware of the growing tension between Alenia and our nearest neighbor, the Empire of Brahma. Not really, Nightingale replied. I know they've hated us since Alenia was founded, but I don't know why or why it always seems to be getting worse. Kezia turned to Nightingale. The details would take time we don't have to explain. Suffice to say that Brahma has always claimed Alenia as its territory but never used it. When we declared our independence, they failed to recognize us as a state. Yoel spoke up from his chair. Brahma is considered larger and more powerful than Alenia. The best intelligence we have suggests that their soldiers outnumber ours 10 to 1. They have their own version of demiurge to a cabal of sorcerers and mercenaries called the Grim Deacons. The initiation rites alone would leave you That's enough, Kezia interrupted. The peace envoy will be arriving within the month. Yoel will conduct the negotiations and attempt to alleviate tensions before they escalate. Yoel. Ida Zhang's voice was matter-of-fact, her arms folded. Take this as no slight to your son, but Yoel is incapable of handling such delicate matters. He's hot-headed. Kezia glared sidelong at her. I have confidence in my son's abilities. His work delegating peace in Fair Edge has been commendable. You mean Shaelis's work in Fair Edge, Ida said, glancing sideways at Nightingale's sister. Shaelis stood. Yoel and Nalia have proven themselves more than capable at diplomacy. If it wasn't for them, I might be on the gallows in Fair Edge right now. Speaking of Nalia, where is she? Ida tapped her fingers rhythmically on the chair. My wife has left to Fair Edge. The Wolfric family has requested her presence as a formality. We're playing along, Yoel said calmly. Ida relaxed a little. Kezia, it should be you who delegates the peace envoy. You could sell a king his own castle. What could you be doing that's more important? I must go west, Kezia said flatly. She offered no explanation. Remy's friends looked as confused as she felt. Remy looked between the two noble ladies, trying to read whatever silent conversation had passed between them. We don't have high hopes for negotiations, Kezia said. Brahma knows that they have us outmatched. We're afraid they may have come to offer terms we can't accept. I will not be attending the negotiations because I will be visiting with some of our closest allies to secure military aid against the invasion we believe may be inevitable. Kezia will travel back to her parents' house in the far west. The Lucera family will aid us if the worst were to transpire, Balthazar said. I expect the rest of my family to be in attendance when the Brahmanian delegation arrives. He turned, glancing to the little cluster of chairs the Zong family had pulled together. And as many of yours as can be available, Lady Ida. My son has Alenia's best interests at heart, but he lacks the wisdom that comes of experience. Balthazar rose to his feet again, resting one hand on the hilt and the sword on his waist. Should Yoel be killed, the succession will pass to the Shaelis, then to you, Nightingale. May there be no need. Why am I here? Nightingale asked. Did you think politics was collecting taxes and attending balls? We fought for our kingdom, and we'll be fighting to keep it. Your attendance at any negotiation will provide further evidence of our family's stability and strength. If you bother to educate yourself on any of the relevant topics, you might even be useful at the table. Sorry, fly buzzing around me. Nightingale watched as a retinue of soldiers followed closely behind her parents as they left the room. A few minutes later, they watched from a balcony as King Balthazar departed in an extravagant carriage. Zeke was smoking again, though he looked a little uneasy. Sometimes I wonder if going through the advancement made all of us lose our minds. Nobody realizes, but because we're all just as crazy. He looked away. Lo was my dad, but if it were me, I'd still put the memorial hunt on hold if it seemed like my kingdom was going to be invaded, you know. Must be an important hunt, Rook muttered. I'm not going to assume they don't know what they're doing. I'd guess there is more to it. I don't care what nefarious things my dad does on his lame hunt. I don't want to think about politics, war, or demons. We need to be more positive. Nightingale waved at the retreating carriage. Zeke raised an eyebrow. More positive? Like how if everyone dies you become queen? What? Nightingale put a hand on her hip. No, stupid. I mean that my dad is gone. She still looked pale, yet some of her original energy seemed to be bubbling back. We graduated yesterday. We're citizens. There's a whole world full of adventure out there. The only one who might stop us is riding off in that carriage. Zeke nodded. I've meant to get out into Alenia proper. What's the point of being able to leave the Institute if we spend all of our time at home? My family left me with some cash as a graduation present. Mine did too. Nightingale seemed to be getting more excited at the moment. I bet if we pooled it, we could have enough for new gear for all of us. Her excitement was infectious. Nightingale and Zeke pulled out small pouches and began counting how much gold they had. The party gains the following bonus depending on how much XP the adventurers have earned, including XP they have spent. So that's why I keep track of my total XP. So it's one of those situations where if you're doing very poorly, because if you lose an encounter, you usually don't get experience. So it's quite possible you could be at like 3 or 4 experience at this point. We are at, what was it? We're at 8 experience, I believe. Yeah, we're at 8 experience, so we get 10 gold. I like how they talked up how, their royal parents left them a bunch of money, and it's 10 gold. That's between the two of them. So they essentially got like 5 and 5. But in any case, we get 10 gold. So we're at 173 now, which is not too shabby. Watching them count out the gold, even Rook's mind started turning. She seemed rather determined to get herself into danger on a regular basis. Some new gear might might have been just what he needed to be a better knight. Could be fun, he said. Nightingale hardly seemed to hear him. And when we're done, we'll have everything we need to finish exploring the vaults. They all stared. It took a moment to realize that what she was suggesting. Are you sure that's a good idea? Zeke asked through a billow of smoke. I mean, we got the whole monster mash after us last time. Hoggerfaro hasn't forgotten about us. Rook cleared his throat. I admit I was curious last time, but we've seen it now. It's out of our league. Psh. Nightingale waved a dismissive hand. We were just unprepared. We know Hoggerfar's down there. We can be much more careful. I haven't been able to stop thinking about what was on that pedestal. Whatever it was has to be epic. I mean, some real purple color loot. As I mentioned before, Nightingale is a gamer. I'm down, Remy squeaked. I mean, we'll have better gear. It's not like we couldn't get away from the Hoggerfar last time. Yeah, Nightingale embraced Remy, wrapping one arm around her shoulder. She gets it. Zeke extinguished his cigarette on the railing and flicked the butt over the side. It's a stupid idea, but I guess I'm down. Nightingale turned to Rook. You don't have to come. I know my father made you my knight, but I'm coming. Rook didn't wait for her to finish. We'll probably need Suri's help again to find our way around, and you wouldn't have her help without me there. That's more like it, Nightingale's grin returned. But first, let's go shopping. Story round, page 47. So, there's some tips here about buying the right gear and all that good stuff. It's also talking about side quest. And here we are, the story round, City of Valenia. So this time we have access to all mundane items, all accessories, all upgrades that have been unlocked, and then one random mundane unique item. So it is going to be a random unique item. So let's go ahead and pull out all the unique items. Out of all of them, two of them one of them is completely useless. One of them is okay. And then everything else is generally a gain, though may not be a gain right now. Okay, yeah, I believe there's only 7. All right, so I'm going to hit shuffle and take the top one. Oh, good. Okay, we got the shield. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put this with the wandering cards again. So, this is the Bone Shaker, the monster beneath. It's a medium shield. It is base white die, which is already better than what we have. Its combo range has the same combos, so combo range empowers it, and then combo melee actually makes it an orange die. This is really good for Rook because, again, it's a shield, so he can actually have a casting die of orange, which you don't usually get casting dies of orange until a common tier. A lot of the unique items tend to be at least like a half a tier higher than what they're in. So this being mundane tier, it's a kind of like a bit between mundane and common. But this shield is good for pretty much the entire game because of this flip effect. You can flip it to place a 3 1x1 dangerous terrain tokens orthogonally adjacent to your figure in a straight line. If this would defeat a figure, they must pass a jump check to move to the nearest unoccupied non-dangerous terrain space or be defeated. Boss figures automatically pass this jump check. This thing is cheese central. Anything that's essentially just a one-tile size entity, even a boss, you can use this to potentially kill them. Now you might be thinking, how can that be if it automatically passes the jump check? To do a jump check, you still have to have a place to jump to. And you can definitely do some cheeky things where you block all potential directions that the boss can jump to. So yeah, this thing has a lot of potential. It's one of the few things that can actually produce dangerous terrain, as an effect. So it's really good. The flip side is just, it has everything that's the same. The only difference is it doesn't have the flip effect. For those who don't remember, flip effects will only recharge when you go to a story round or get a refresh. So we're definitely interested in this. Even though we already have a shield, this is definitely a numero uno purchase that we want. We also definitely want an adventurer's pack. So that there is 130 gold. Also, I did pull out everything that was in the stash, so we do have the black belt hat and then 3 consumables. And yeah, we're in pretty interesting times here. We do have 5 experience to spend, which is enough to get a level 2 discipline. For Zeke, we're going to get something that's not actually that good, but I do want to get it for now. Supposedly, I've heard a few things that in Act 2 and 3, they introduce some things that make conduit summoning a little bit better. but I don't know. So let's talk about conduit summoning. So it's a level 2 assemblage, costs 5 XP. Anytime an opponent is defeated with an SOI, you can earn their conduit card. And then for 1 stamina at any time, you can replace your adventure card with a conduit that you have earned, or replace your current conduit card with your adventure card. So a conduit card is essentially but conduit summoning, what it is it's shape changing. Anything that you've killed with an SOI of Zeke in this case, he will, if it has a conduit card, he gets it, and he can transform into that at the cost of 1 stamina. This ability, unfortunately, doesn't tend to do very well, just simply because that 1 stamina does add up. The fact you can do it at any time does add some really interesting effects. Also, as you get more and more transformations, you can definitely do a variety of things. It just kind of comes short compared to other means of doing support or damage. That being said, like I said, it does offer you a lot of flexibility. The main reason why I'm grabbing this right now is because you only get conduits as you're killing things with conduit summoning. And there are new cards, new conduit cards that were introduced through all the new bounties and things like that. So my intention is to go ahead and try to grab all those new conduit cards and see what happens. So that's what I want to go with. For right now, this ability literally does nothing because we don't have any conduits at the start. But that is 5 experience from Zeke. Nightingale. So let's go ahead and talk about another 1.2 change. So anyone who actually watched my previous playthrough of this, I said that there were 2 disciplines that were unquestionably the most powerful in the game. One of them was Quick Blow, and the second one was Quick Blow, because originally Quick Blow was a level 1 discipline, which means there were 2 of. For those who don't know, the level 1 disciplines all have duplicates, so there's 2 each. But anything higher than that, there's only 1 ofs. Originally, Quick Blow was a level 1 subterfuge ability. In 1.2, they've changed it to a level 2, and they took one of the level 2 disciplines and made it level 1, which was Shame of the Otaku, I think. That is now level 1. So the way they nerfed Quick Blow is by making it level 2, so there's only 1 available. Quick Blow is a level 2 subterfuge. It costs 1 stamina to do, and you can only activate it during the follow-up step of an attack. And it has to be an attack that you haven't done that is not a Quick Blow, but it allows you to make another attack. This is insanely good because let's use Rami for example. Let's say she has 3 stamina at the start. She spends 1 to move. She does Blade Works, and then she hits with Blade Works. Then spends well, actually no, we'll do it this way. She's next to an enemy. She does Blade Works, hits, spends a stamina to do a Quick Blow off of that. Hits, either hits or misses. Then spends 2 stamina to attack again, hits with that, and then if she had another stamina, she can do a Quick Blow. There's definitely a lot of ways to get stamina during in between actions, things like MF Fortitudes and stuff like that. If you have sources of getting quick and easy, like 1 points of stamina, you can kind of just keep chaining this off of things. It also is really good because it can work with both melee and ranged builds. So usually the way I originally did it was I would have like Remy have one of the Quick Blows and then have Nightingale have the other with a bow. But at this point, it is kind of better on, in my opinion, I think Quick Blow is better on an Archer now, if you had to choose, simply because Archers kind of have a lot more flexibility, especially 2-handed ones. But I think for right now, I'm not going to grab Quick Blow just yet. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and grab Overwatch. Now, as always, I mentioned I always have some complaints about Succubus Publishing and kind of how they've been doing for development. But in the early days, they did actually take advice that I gave about Overwatch. I don't know if anyone else gave it, but it was one I did post in their Discord, and they responded to it. Which, Overwatch, obviously there's a game that's called Overwatch, but this ability is more in reference to XCOM, Where XCOM, you can do an Overwatch, and the idea is you sit there and wait for the enemy to move into range, and then you take a shot at them. And my feedback was, why does Overwatch not work against flying enemies? Because you're using a ranged attack. And they were like, yeah, that's a good point. And so they added this effect, which was the fact that when you do a provoke X, where X is equals to the range of your weapon, in this case it will be 6 with the longbow. And if you're using a ranged weapon, which a longbow is, the break attack can work against enemies with flight. This is one of the few abilities that can actually do break attacks against against flying units, which we haven't found any flying units yet, but when you do run into them, they're very annoying. But the idea here is I'm going to go ahead and grab that for Nightingale. What's really nice about this ability is it gives her ability to attack outside her turn through the use of break attacks. And she can choose to activate it or not, which is great. The other thing that's really nice about it is eventually I'll grab, of course, Quick Blow. And Quick Blow can chain off of Overwatch. So essentially on her outside her turn, she can do a break attack and then Quick Blow off of it if she hits. It's just, like I said, that's why I kind of prefer Quick Blow on archers, because they have a lot more interesting ways to activate it as necessary. Anyway, sorry, that's all. My voice is giving out on me and I'm talking a bunch, but there's a lot to talk about. Okay, so Remy and Rook. So for Rook, usually, I mean, obviously having access to Sanctus opens a lot of doors. Proof of Divinity gives you access to Courage, which used to be, it is okay, but it's not as great as it used to be. From the Grave is good if you want to, it is one of the few ways to revive someone that's been defeated. But I think the big thing we want right now, I mean, part of me wants to go into Summoning, but I think I may have to just save that for Zeke. Yeah, I think I'll save that for Zeke. Make him go Banished Knowledge, Conduit Summoning and regular Summoning, and just have all the complications. Yeah, I think that'll be the best idea. So yeah, with that in mind, I think the plan here is I'm going to grab Intervention, which is a level 1 Sanctus. You can exhaust it, and an ally with an SOI gains an Intervention token. You can reduce the it costs 1 stamina to do as well, but it costs 1 less if you cast it on someone beside yourself. So essentially it's free besides the exhaust. Intervention tokens allows you to reroll all dice you just rolled. You can only have 1 at a time. So it's a circular token. It's an ability token, which means it does carry over as long as it's not a refresh. And what you can do is just gradually put this on everybody so that everyone has a reroll. It rerolls everything, which does reduce its control a little bit, but it does work on black dice, which means if you roll a skull, you can pop this to kind of try to make that not a black die. So we're going to go ahead and put that with Rook. This is going to cost him 4 XP because this is a second level 1 ability. So he's going to be down to 1 XP remaining. And then for Remy, so originally you would, back when Quick Blow was level 1, you would just go like Blade Works and then Quick Blow and then just go to town with that. But since Quick Blow is now limited to just 1 and it's a level 2 ability, we're going to instead focus on something else. Magebreaker is kind of interesting, but it only works against things that actually have a magic dice, which not everything does. Dead End is really good for two-handed weapons. It gets you a bunch of shields. But I'm probably going to go ahead and grab his Onslaught, which is essentially the same ability as those Cave Sickles when in melee, which is if you hit, it costs 3 stamina to activate, but if you hit, you can attack again, and if you hit with that, you can also attack again. So you can do this. If you're next to somebody, have 3 stamina, you can Blade Works for an attack, and then potentially hit 3 more times with Onslaught. So that's the way you're going to get a bunch of extra attacks off of her. So that's 5 XP. And that is it for that. Okay, so let's do some shopping. So we are definitely going to be selling this shield and buying this Bone Shaker. And we're definitely going to buy this Adventurer Pack. So let's sell the shield, which should only cost us... it should give us, 5 gold back. So they'll put us at 178. 178 for that, and then I'm going to spend 130. So that'll put us back down to 148 to grab this Adventurers pack and then this Bone Shaker. So now we have an orange die for a casting die, and we also melee with a white and an orange, which is rather good. Okay, so with all that, the Adventurers pack is going to go to Remy, just so she can have a free re-equip. So what this does is it expands your pack size by 6. This item can't be stored in your pack, and then at any time during another action, not during another action, you can do a re-equip just by exhausting it. So now she doesn't have to spend a stamina to do that. So what that does a number of awesome things. One is it makes it easier for her to swap her throwing knives. But more importantly is it gives us more pack slots, so we can carry more consumables, so we don't have to worry about them being discarded. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and go. I want to grab a Bottle Blessing and do something like that. I'll grab that Bottle Blessing. Because it's 6 extra, it increases your pack size by 6. That means you have 9 pack slots now, which is just ridiculous. We'll take an MF Fortitude. Actually, you can take the MF Fortitude. MF Fortitudes. You can take a Magic Balm. Let's not put all of our eggs in one basket. I think I'm going to have Zeke carry just the juice boxes. Mainly because if he's going to be transforming eventually, you can't really... So the big thing about Conduit is while you're transformed, you literally can't activate any other abilities, like on your cards and stuff. It's actually kind of annoying. And it's something I tend to forget often, so we're just going to keep that simple. Alright. You can have this. And that. We can tag out the Magic Balm. Alright. Give you the soda. You can carry all of that. So how many slots do I have open? I have 5 slots. So I have 4 slots remaining to do whatever I want with. We'll just have him hold on to everything. That's fine. And Nightingale can hold on to these. Okay, so that takes care of all of that. And we have some spare slots on Remy, which is fine. Okay. 48 gold left. If we were to buy another accessory, the only thing we can afford at this point is the too many belts, which is rather good, but it's not something I care to mess around with. The other thing to note, also, a real quick thing about that unique item that we got that was purchasable. If you choose not to buy that item and you continue on from that the story round, once you're done with that story round, that item that was in the shop cannot be found again. It is actually removed from circulation. So if you want the item, you better buy it, which that's why we bought it. Okay, as for support type stuff, I'm going to have Zeke have the pan flute. Yeah, the sickle venom I'm going to give to Nightingale. So now she has poison arrows. The black belt hat. Unfortunately, this only works on other people. I'm going to go ahead and just give that to Remy for now. So that leaves us with 48 gold. Anything else? I mean, there's definitely things I would like to buy. At this point, I think I'm going to go ahead and buy some enchanted piercings. Everything else I'm kind of okay with just getting naturally. So let's go ahead some enchanting piercings, because these give you rerolls, and rerolls are good. This can even work on skill checks. So this will be 30 gold, putting us at 18 left. I think that'll be fine. Yeah, that 90 gold for an adventures pack is quite the investment. All right, we're going to take one of these enchanted piercings and give it to Remy, which will give her a conviction. And then I'll go ahead and give one to Brooke for another conviction. Let's see. I could attach it to the Ardor Rings of Reverie, but at this point it doesn't really do anything. In fact, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and have the wand and the Ardor Rings get put into the stash for now, because we don't have any spellcraft items. So we're going to put this in the stash. This is gear, so it's not going to get discarded. And that'll put us in an okay spot. Okay. Besides that, there's a few other things to note. This phase, we also can explore. As they group, choose one of the following and then proceed to its listed page. You may not choose a side quest. You've already attempted this adventure. If you have no side quest you can choose, or you decide you don't want to explore a side quest, continue to venture forth, which would take us down the main quest. Despite what they're called, the game kind of is balanced around assuming you do every side quest possible. So they're kind of required. That being said, you can do the side quest in any order if there happens to be multiple. So we're definitely going to be doing all the side quests. The other thing you can also do during certain story phases is bounties. In the base box, it usually only came with one 2-skull bounty. I don't even remember what it was called. It was called the Blighted Terror. So in the base box, you had just that bounty, which is 2-skull. For this this particular story round, you can only do a 1-skull bounty or lower, which there are only 1 skull. So usually for this phase, you would actually have no bounty to do. Since the game started, there have been some 1-skull bounties. There's the Cave-Sickle Queen, and then there's the Fury of Nature, which the Fury of Nature I only have a physical copy of. I did import the new cards, but as for the book and stuff, I'll have to just read it physically. And you'll just have to take my word for it, I guess. But in any case, there are a lot more bounties available. One thing that the thing to note about bounties, if anything that you use in a bounty is used, just like if it was a side quest. But anything you gain from a bounty is you get to keep, even if you fail the bounty. If you fail a bounty, you can't do another bounty until you get to another story round that has bounties available. Now, what people used to do back in 1.1 or 1.1 is they would do the 2-skull bounty once it was available, and they would purposely fail it at the end and just they would try to grab as much loot and gold as possible, and then purposely fail at the end. And that way they can retry it every time there was a bounty. In 1.1, bounties were available in just about every story round. In 1.2, they have changed it. Now there's only certain story rounds that have bounties, and it's far, far fewer than before. I won't spoil how many there are, but needless to say, with the amount of bounties we have, if you attempt one, you're better off making sure you succeed at it. Also, all bounties, when you succeed at them, do provide an experience point, so there's definitely incentive to actually complete them. Bounties tend to be about a half a tier higher, or even a full tier higher than your current difficulty. Cave-Sickle Queen I have never actually succeeded. I originally did try doing Cave-Sickle Queen as on this round, and I have never succeeded at it. I usually would have to wait until I get to Chapter 2 and reattempt it. This time around, I'm probably going to be trying Fury of Nature and see how difficult that is. I've never done it, but I assume it's going to be easier than Cave-Sickle Queen. Cave-Sickle Queen has been rebalanced since it came out on Tabletop Simulator. Certain enemies are a little less insane, but it's still a pretty tough one. Also, the moment we start doing the Cave Sickle Queen, it's going to add a lot more variants and alternates for Cave Sickles, which will definitely change things up. But like I said, I've never tried Fury of Nature, and I think it might be easier to do and possible to actually beat it. So I'm hoping to try that out. That being said, that's going to be the last thing we do. We're going to do the side quest first and kind of go from there. Anyway, this has been a long rambly video. So let's go ahead and dive into, as the tip recommends, let's do the lower problems first, which is page 48. All right. Also just making sure I didn't miss anything here. Yep, same text. All right, page 48, lower problems. Let's just make sure I didn't miss anything. So yeah, nothing's in our stash besides equipment, so we don't need to worry about discarding any consumables. Also remember what I said before, consumables can be sold for 1 gold each. So if we are ever desperate for money, or if we do have too much to carry, we can work from there. It's kind of tempting to buy a second freaking adventures pack just so we can clear out the deck, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Oh, actually, there's one other tactic you can do with a adventures pack. You could opt to buy more things, more weapons that have throw on them, like the hand axes and thief knives, and then just use your free re-equip from adventures pack to cycle your thrown weapons. That's I essentially call it the backpack build. But yeah, anyway, lower problems, page 48. Excuse me, a moment of your time. A man stepped out from an alley. He wore a plain brown cloak frayed at the edges and had long pointed ears. Nightingale stopped, subconsciously resting one hand on the hilt of her weapon. Yes? You're Princess Nightingale, King Balthazar's youngest daughter, he returned. And you're Zeke Jong, right? Who wants to know? Zeke, surrounded as uncomfortable as Nightingale felt. The man retreated a step. My name is Therald. I'm no one of consequence, just a desperate citizen who could use some help. Nightingale frowned. Her mind wandered back to the vaults and the strange object resting on the dark pedestal. She banished the thought with a shake of her head. I'm sorry, but we're quite busy. And only recently citizens ourselves. I doubt we can help. Please. Therald's hand shook as he drew something from a pocket. A strange, shockingly green crystal glinted in this afternoon sun. People have already been hurt. If someone doesn't do something, the Loas might kill next time. Rook reached out and set one gentle arm on the man's shoulder. Therald, please slow down. What are you talking about? He held the crystal towards Nightingale. I didn't know the Loas were guarding it. There weren't any around when I found it, and the man's whole body shook. Nightingale scooped the crystal from his hand, and it weighed quite a bit more than its size would have suggested, a chunk of rough metal without a single crack or imperfection. What is it? I don't know. Therald paused and inhaled sharped. He took a few seconds to compose himself before he went on. Princess, I found that not far from the city just a few days ago on an altar and I thought was abandoned. Turns out, well, I guess it belongs to the Loas. I just need someone to return it to where I found it. There's a road running through the forest near where I found it. I've already heard about 3 attacks. Nobody's died yet, but looking desperate, he met Nightingale's eyes. I'd be willing to pay, if you could just bring the matter to the king's attention. I've got a better idea. We could take care of it for you. She turned to Zeke. You want to try some adventure that isn't underground? Zeke shrugged. Sounds important. He gestured at the street thick with people behind them. Someone's got to keep them all safe. Therald relaxed. If you can do it, if you can, try not to hurt the Loas. It was my damn fault. They shouldn't suffer because of what I did. I'll pay more if you can do it without killing any. Rook put his finger and thumb at the bridge of his nose and slowly rubbed. Nightingale, are you sure you don't want to tell the guards or maybe your brother? I'm sure they'd take care of it. Nah, Balthazar's gone. It's my family's responsibility to keep the people safe. This is some real Dungeons & Dragons crap, just what I wanted. Rook only shook his head in response. Come, my knight, escort me into the wilderness and help me slay some Loa. Nightingale marched away, raising each leg in an exaggerated fashion while holding her weapon high. Special, choose one adventurer. The chosen adventurer gains the Loa crystal token. Place this token on their adventure card to indicate they are carrying it. Okay. We're going to put this token on. We're going to give it to Remy. She's going to carry the football. I'm just going to put it up here so it's easier to see. All right. And then we go to lower altar, page 50. Lower altar. The path into the forest leads you just outside of the city. The serene sounds of water can be heard to the south. And as you step out into the clearing, you find yourself greeted by a small pond. A fallen tree makes a natural bridge that leads towards some suspicious-looking piles of dirt. Further to the east, you see a pair of earth loas. Luckily, they are far away. You wonder if they will be of any concern. Through the thicket, you see a pedestal propped up on some old ruins. Placing the crystal and getting back shouldn't be too difficult. Should it? Alright, so this is going to be a big map, 3x3. And there's some special rules. The lower crystal. If the adventurer carrying the lower crystal is defeated, you place the lower crystal down. If the lower crystal gets into dangerous terrain, it's removed from the game, and that's it. Also, if it's in water terrain, it does get pushed by current, which there are current, of course. Though, if it gets all the way down here, you probably deserved it. Alright, there's 3 conditions. The win condition is you get the lower crystal there and then get everyone out. Lose condition is you get defeated or the lower crystal is removed from the game, or you place the lower crystal down on the altar but everyone got defeated. Also, you special encounter rules, you have to keep track of how many water loas and earth loas you defeat during this encounter. And there's some shaky logs which you can slip on. If you move out of a special terrain space on tile UM33, which is this log here, you have to do an agility 10 check. If you fail, you fall into the water terrain adjacent and end your movement. The strange cracks, the tile 35, doesn't do anything. And then the slow currents is just mentioning that it's 1 space to move. And then there's something that happens at the start of the first round. The blue objective is the empty altar. If you're adjacent to it with the football, you can place it on there and do whatever's there. And then there's a red objective, which if any adventurer moves onto this token, you have to read about it, which is all the way down there. Okay, and I think that's everything. Yep, that is everything. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and call it here. I am the Depressed Eeyore. This was Middara Unintentional Malum Act 1, and I'll see you guys next time.